Hi there, I'm Becky Hammond, founder and strengths maven over at Isogo and isogostrong.com. Welcome to Isogo TV, the video and audio podcast where we are fueling marriage connection, parenting grace, and work energy by focusing in on your strengths instead of fixating on your weakness. Today, you are joining us for episode 73, and we are right in the middle of our Isogo TV interview series. By talking to leaders, coaches, parents, spouses, regular people, we are bringing alive the life-changing stories that have been fueled by people's unique and brilliant strengths in their work, or their marriages, or their parenting. And today's guest is Paul Allen. Paul has said that if he has one entrepreneurial superpower, it's asking questions at scale. He first asked how we can connect to our paths, and his answer? Founding Ancestry.com. He now asks how we can connect to our future. He answers, as he usually does, in grand fashion by becoming the world's foremost thought leader on the strengths movement. First at Gallup, and now at SOAR.com, Paul is on a mission to help every person, executive, team, and company understand their unique abilities. Through an inspiring blend of current, topical data, personal, moving stories, Paul gives his audience both the motivation and the information that they need to turn his stories into action. I have personally been inspired by Paul's commitment and enthusiasm and integrity, so much so that I'm even wearing this SOAR.com shirt today to show my support. In this interview, he shares his own journey in the strengths perspective, how it impacted the way he puts teams together, what he wished he would have known earlier in his career, and even how it has impacted the way he connects with his wife, Christy. So let's dive into this conversation with Paul Allen. All right, well, thank you, Paul Allen, for being here today. I am really excited that we get to sit down and have a conversation, because that's kind of what it feels like.
I know, it really does. It's great to see you, Becky, and love the work that you're doing, and I'm very excited to be a guest on your show.
Well, thanks. Well, I'm honored to have you and inspired by what you are doing and what you've done in your life, and honored that I get to share with our community a little bit about that and what the strengths perspective has meant in your life and in your work and in your home. So first, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, like what your family's like and what you do for work, and we'll go from there.
So it's kind of interesting that I grew up in a family of 8 kids, and my wife grew up in a family of 8 kids, and we were both the 5th of 8 kids.
Oh my goodness. And
we got married 1988. So we've been married 30 years, and we have 8 kids.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Why that happened, isn't 8 the perfect number in China or something like that?
There's something about 7. I haven't heard 8.
Maybe it's 7. Maybe I think there's a special affiliation with 8 as well. But
cool.
But so our 5th child thinks, he's obviously
very special.
And so, our family, we have 3 girls, then 3 boys, and then 2 girls at the end. So they range in age from 30 to, or she'll turn 30 this year, to December 31st. She was born on the last day of the year, 10 months after we got married. And then we have a 13-year-old still at home. So 7 of our kids are kind of college and
wow.
And so it's really an interesting stage of life to add a full household for so many years, all the routine of chores and school and music and putting them to bed, which was my favorite part of being a dad, was, reading with them and come in and telling them stories and saying prayers with them. And then, and now they're all grown-ups and having kids of their own. So it's an interesting stage. I think with life comes some wisdom, hopefully, and some perspective, and certainly a lot of gratitude.
Wow, that's wonderful. And then what are you doing for work right now?
So when I joined Gallup in 2012 as the global strengths evangelist for the StrengthsFinder movement, it's the first time I'd ever taken a job with another company or big company since my first 2 years in the workforce. I worked at a search engine company, but then I was an entrepreneur for 22 years. I started 7 companies, and so I just love to build things that I care about. I love products that will help people, that will help families, that will help people with learning and education. And so when I find something that's uplifting and positive, I actually like to build a company to kind of promote it and even, create additional value around it. So, what I'm doing now is, after I left Gallup a year ago and had a nice conversation with Jim Clifton about, the whole idea of helping coaches through the Gallup Exchange. That project didn't go live, wasn't promoted and marketed the way I had hoped for. And so Jim said, I wouldn't object if you went off on your own and started this exchange type platform for coaches. So I've been running with that for over a year and now have had some great funding from some amazing investors, some great collaborators, co-creators of the company, co-founders. My wife is on the board. She's a Gallup strengths coach, so she's involved together. And so we're actually kind of building what I think is the last company I'll ever be involved with, which hoping to spread strengths to people all over the world and to help everyone soar with their strengths.
Wow. Cool. And that's called soar.com, right?
Soar.com. Can you believe we got that domain? I mean,
no,
that's like a dream. I have an 8-letter email address, Becky. This is for me. I mean, I got my first email address in like 1995, but I remember a friend, Josh Koppelman. Josh is a super good entrepreneur and a venture capitalist. He sold a company called half.com to eBay for like $380 million, 18 months after he started it. Wow. And I remember him telling me about the plan to do this, but then he sent me his email. It was josh@half.com. I'm like, that is the best email I've ever seen. And paul@soar.com. I can't believe I have like this awesome short address.
You're living it.
It's like, wow, the dream is.
That's awesome. So you have a lot to be proud of in your life and your work. And when you think about something that you're proud of recently, what comes to your mind?
I've wanted to run a marathon my whole life. And I kind of like distance running. I have intellection. I like to think a lot. And so running is a chance, especially run outdoors. But I've never been able to break 16 miles. That was my personal best. And I just would hit a wall and I just like mentally not be able to do it. So about a year ago, I started running 5 miles almost every single morning.
Wow.
Up the canyon. And then that consistency allowed me on June 2nd, I ran 8 miles. And I wasn't do a long run that day, but I finished my long 10-mile run and I thought, I feel really good. I think I can keep going. So I got to 20.
Whoa.
Now that barrier of 16 is gone. And I think if I can start doing 6 or 7 every day, I think I'll be able to run a marathon in the next year or so. So one of those bucket list things that I've
What's your dream marathon? Where do you want to go?
I don't really have one. I just want to do one. I have in mind if I do it on my own with nobody watching. I could just hit 20, because on my 40th birthday, I ran 13.1 miles on a treadmill the morning of my 40th birthday, just because I wanted to see what I could do. And so it doesn't even have to be a big name marathon. I just need to do 26.2 sometime.
Well, I highly recommend then the San Diego Rock and Roll Marathon, because I haven't done it, but it's pretty much the best place you could ever choose to run. So
there you go. Yeah, like San Diego, like if there's water close by, I mean, I love to be by lakes, oceans, rivers, mountains, trees. San Diego kind of has a beautiful variety there. So I give that a shot.
Cool. So when you first came across the strengths concept, I would love for people to know kind of where you were at. I know it was introduced to you by a friend. And so you weren't necessarily looking to solve any problems, that you thought could maybe be solved by the strengths perspective. But when you were at the time, what challenges were you experiencing? What was happening in your life? Kind of where were you at? What were you thinking about most in your life at that moment when you were introduced to StrengthsFinder?
Yeah, it's a great question. I like to look back 10 or 15 years, and there's probably 3 or 4 steps that led me to be really ready for taking the strengths assessment and then doing something with it afterwards. It was early 2012. in the early 2000s, Ancestry.com really became the world's best and biggest genealogy company. But we had big investors who kind of took control of the company, and I felt like in some ways the company had lost part of its original mission, which was to connect living families with each other and not just people to their deceased ancestors. And so our most important property was neglected and then eventually shut down. So I went through the heartache of seeing a company taken over by other people. Mm. And then I watched as the country went through the global financial crisis, and I got obsessed with the global financial crisis. I read like 40 books on the subject, derivatives, structured mortgage-backed securities, financial engineering. And it's really scary the more you learn about the global financial system and how it works. And so I was kind of worried about the future of the world and how fragile, and how, one derivative trader could do something that would create contagion and spread to, hundreds of millions of people affected and losing their savings. I mean, it was really tragic, actually. And I think it damaged so many economies, but so many individuals and families as well. So that happened. And then I started a company and met Mark Zuckerberg in 2007. I shook his hand the day he announced Facebook platform, which gave an opportunity for software developers like my team and I to build the app on top of Facebook. And so we built an app in October of 2007 called We're Related. And it was helping people connect with all their living relatives on Facebook and share family photos and family trees privately. And we got 120 million users in 2.5 years. And then Facebook pulled the plug basically on their platform. And we lost 97% of our revenue and 97% of our users in a 6-month period. I had to lay off 40 people. So I went from, trying to build something good for families, then trying to build something good for families on top of Facebook. In both cases, corporate owners or corporate decision makers got to kind of pull the plug on initiatives that I really cared about and kind of limit the growth of that. And so when I had a friend at Gallup who said, hey, we're thinking of taking StrengthsFinder and really opening up the floodgates and helping people all over the world hear about their strengths. And so we needed a hyper-growth entrepreneur. And I told them, hey, they should talk to you. So I said, well, I don't know anything about it. And he said, well, I'll send you a code. Literally, Becky, I took that assessment and read my report, and I thought, oh my gosh, this understands me better than anybody, even my mom, my wife, my best friend. Like, this nailed me to a T. Like, this is exactly who I am. And then when I got my full 34 and I saw my 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I'm like, how do they do this? For them to know this much about me.
Wow.
And so I had such a powerful reaction to it. And as my friend Clint started coaching me around it and teaching me about the strengths movement, I started reading the books and realized that I was missing this tool my entire life. And I had this kind of huge remorse that all the companies that I started and all the talented people that I worked with, I didn't understand them through the lens of strengths. I was looking for very narrow sets of skills, and I really valued and engaged with employees that were technologists or marketers. And I ignored largely the HR people and the communications teams or the infrastructure teams. Like, I didn't really value their contributions. In fact, I had a real problem in almost every business meeting. I would calculate the cost of the meeting because I knew the salaries of everybody in the room.
Oh my gosh.
This 2-hour meeting is costing us like $3,700. Like, this can't be worth it. Instead of viewing it like, hey, we're all together, we're all learning from each other, we're coordinating as a team, everybody's got contributions to make, I didn't see it that way at all.
Wow.
And so I think this flood of remorse and the fact that I hadn't ever understood the value of culture and chip around unlocking the strengths of others. And so since I felt so validated by the assessment, I started wanting everyone else that I knew same experience. And just to feel like this assessment describes me better than anything ever has in my life. And now what do I do with it? So it was a really transformative experience for me. And it led me to take a full-time job with Gallup just 6 months later and move to Washington, D.C. and take the rest of our younger kids there and
Wow.
stay for almost 5 years with Gallup.
Wow. And so when Clint introduced you to this tool, and, you weren't really looking for anything in terms of like how to become a better manager, or how to be a better leader, or how to start businesses better. You weren't really looking for something. Had you felt like you had tried other perspectives or other paths before you understood?
Not really. I really ignored people stuff, HR stuff and assessments and things. Like I had just kind of written it off. Like it doesn't matter to a technology entrepreneur. I actually think most technology entrepreneurs are today like I was, years ago. The HR organizational people, you just go do your things. We'll go create all the value for the company. But I was looking for something, Becky. I was looking for a solution to the world's biggest problem. I was thinking of moving to Washington, D.C. even before Gallup.
Interesting.
The political system is really fragile. The financial system is really fragile. Culture seems to be disintegrating. The mass entertainment, social media is kind of addicting and also very degrading. And so a lot of my core values were being kind of challenged by corporations and governments and social movements that I don't think are going in a good direction. So I was really looking for a company to found around solving the major problems facing the world. And I was not expecting a tool like this, a personal strengths assessment tool, for me now to see that's the seed of solving every problem in the world. The only way any problem in the world gets solved is through human talent being applied. And human talent can only be applied if it's first discovered and developed. So kind of in a grand scheme of things, I feel like not by looking for it, but just because Clint reached out to me, that I found what I was looking for, which was a solution to family problems, management problems, team problems, societal problems, state problems, country problems, culture problems, if we actually just all embraced strengths and viewed each other in the lens of what's right with this person, what can they contribute, how can they grow and develop and reach their full potential. Then one by one, the problems of families can be solved, the problems of organizations can be solved, and the world becomes the kind of world Don Clifton envisioned. What if we had a world built on the strengths of everybody?
Wow. Well, I'm a believer in that, that it's a life-changing thing if we allow it to come in and not just get our list of top 5 strengths, but allow it to really alter the perspective with which we approach the world and relationships, and that we don't just value people who are like ourselves, which is what we tend to do. I give value to people who can get a lot of stuff done. And that was me, 10 years ago and beyond. And it's still a work in process. When I see that people can't get as much done, it's like, you know what? Because you offer all these other things that now I'm training my mind every day to look for. So, I would love to know a little bit more about, when you think of your before strengths and your after strength states, what stories come to mind for you? What was it like before in a particular relationship or a leadership role or whatever comes to your mind? And then what is it like after having understood your strengths and, as you said, kind of the strengths of the people that are around you?
Probably 2 stories might come to mind. So first of all, I had great partners all the way through. I had a great business partner. I had a great executive assistant for 8 years. She has all executing themes. She has ideation at the very bottom. And so she says, Paul, I never have an idea, but I never forget yours and I always get them done. But that was, now looking back after she took the assessment and I did too, now we see why we were such good partners. So you can accidentally stumble into a great relationship and not understand why. But now I can understand why some of my partnerships were so productive and some of them were so awful. And I could go back and have strengths for myself and all my partners where things didn't go well, and use that as a way to dialogue and to talk through the problems. But I mean, there was a lot of immaturity and a lot of lack of self-awareness. But I think the most impactful relationship by far, where strengths has had a really incredible transformational effect, is with me and my wife. So we had been married for over 2 decades, had lots of kids. We had 8 kids, as you know. And, things get really hard sometimes, and you don't understand why she's this way and I'm this way. And so we did go through years of counseling and therapy, and that was very, very helpful. But then when we discovered strengths years ago, and it took her a year or 2 to really embrace it, but then she embraced it. So now you've got 2 people married over 26 years, fully embracing strengths, learning all the themes, giving the assessment to all 8 of our kids. We have 2-day family retreats. We have kids giving tributes to each other. They all talk about strengths all the time. My oldest daughter, my youngest daughter have futuristic. You should just watch them talk about their futures. And my 13-year-old planning her college and beyond, and my 30-year-old, 29-year-old, helping her every step of the way. So now our relationship is completely different because we could never really do projects together. We could never really work together on things. She did her thing, I did my thing, and then we tried to share, some family values and things. But now we actually coach together.
Wow.
Actually do events together. And she respects my learner and input and ideation and all my strategic thinking themes. She doesn't object to me ordering a new book on Amazon every single day, because she knows that that's as important to me as her empathy, relator, and restorative and context and consistency is for her. Wow. And she needs those things to matter. She needs time one-on-one. She needs room for emotional expression. She needs... she needs to solve problems immediately and not wait. My intellection wants to wait for days or weeks and things will go away. Her restorative wants to address it right now. And so now we all of a sudden have language to understand why she's this way and why I'm this way, and to work through so many things that we never could even bring up before. It has been a game changer for our marriage.
Wow. That is amazing to hear. And to hear, now let me list out your top 5 and her top 5 again.
Yeah. So learner, input, ideation, intellection, strategic. Those are my top 5. They're all strategic thinking themes. And hers are empathy, restorative, relator, context, and consistency.
Wow. Yep. There's not one the same, is there?
No, not one the same. We do have strategic and achiever, both of us, in our top 10.
Okay.
So we do have that common out. But her ideation is 34 and my empathy is 33. And so there's a lot we didn't understand about each other at all. And I don't believe the men are from Mars, women are from Venus stereotype. I just think strengths gives you a much richer, personalized view of each person. Right. And in some marriages, the one partner may be more emotional and more emotionally aware. Yeah. And the other one, and it doesn't have to fit a gender stereotype. So I just think throw out the planet, and horoscopes too, the astrology, whatever, and just figure out your natural patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving that define you and your partner and your children, and start to live life around what each person brings and what they contribute to the relationship or to the organization.
Yeah. Yeah. It's certainly true in our relationship that David is, let's see, more from Venus, I guess you would say. He's the one that has that emotional intelligence and always has brought that. And I've been able to learn some of that from him, but it's situational. It's not intuitive, And so, it's been great to kind of, like you said, break down those stereotypes and say, you think that men are from Mars and women are from Venus because people are just different, no matter what their gender is, they're just different from each other. And in order to learn to not just live together, but thrive together. And like you said, work together. I mean, we have a very similar story. Like I at one time, David had asked me, wouldn't it be so fun to work together? And this was probably 5 years into our marriage. And I point out blank, looked him in the face and said, no, that would be miserable. Kind of like, you're a slacker. I don't want, I don't want to work with you. You see how last minute you are on all your projects, all these things that are they're just weakness fixating. And to this day, now we do work together, and it's, not that there's not tension points, because we are different, but we have a way to work through it. So, I love hearing that. And so, was there another story, another kind of spot in your life where you can kind of see a before and after effect of the strengths perspective?
Well, I think from a manager standpoint. So interesting to me, when I interviewed with Gallup, and they have world-class selection instruments where they're similar to StrengthsFinder, but they're customized to a job that you're interviewing for. And so they did all the selection process with me. And I remember distinctly having them ask me, how do you like managing people? I remember saying, I hate managing people. And I kind of thought back to all those times where I had all those meetings, and the bigger the company got, the less I wanted to manage people. So I literally stepped down as CEO 7 times in my previous 7 companies, because I got so overwhelmed with all the people and the management of them that I was unable to spend time doing creation and marketing and product development, which is what I love to do. And so I remember when Gallup hired me and said I was an individual contributor, but I didn't have managerial talent. Well, of course, I didn't sound like I had managerial talent because of the way I talked about it, right?
Yeah.
Well, later at Gallup, I realized how much I loved managing a small team of 5 to 10 people. Like, that is a joy for me. Every startup started out joyful because you get some engineers, you get some marketing people, you get some content and product people, and you're inventing something that didn't exist before. I can't do it all by myself. So leading a small team, if I did that interview over again, I would say, I love managing a small team. I don't love managing a huge corporation.
Right.
Don't know, how to enjoy doing that yet. But so I didn't get to hire and manage a team. And so now I get to. And now what I make sure is that every single person that I work with, whether I manage them directly or whether they're on someone else's team, we know their strengths. We know top 5. And because I'm not emotionally intelligent necessarily like some other people are, and I'm not high individualization, I need a tool like I need the theme insight cards. So I memorize what each theme needs. And then when I'm interacting with people, I'm like, okay, she's got strategic. She needs freedom to make mid-course corrections. Am I imposing a plan on her or on her team where they need to be able to have freedom to make some corrections? Does she have futuristic? Does he have, discipline? How do I work with someone that has discipline? And how is that different than someone that has ideation? And so now it's like a joy because I'm not stumbling around and making mistakes left and right. There's actually an explanation for why working with this person is going well, that working with this person isn't. And I have a tool set that is incomparable so that I can make sure that every employee has what they need so that they can bring what they bring so that they can be their best. And everyone wins when this happens. And so I think that has been, I'm not going to step down as CEO of this company. Maybe hire a COO or other people to manage certain parts of the business. But I love this. And I'm not just growing a company. I'm trying to grow all the people in the company. I want every person that joins SOAR to have the best work experience of their entire career. More personal growth and more opportunity to do what they do best than anywhere they've ever worked. And hopefully they'll take away from SOAR, if they ever leave, an expectation that a workplace can both have organizational goals, but also cater to the individual's need to contribute and to grow.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy. This is all happening. I'm in my early 50s, starting this company, and I'm like, I think I made every mistake in the book, and have to. Now I think the sky's the limit on this company and what we can do to share the Clifton Strengths message all over the world. I was a Russian major in college, and so now I'm like, I've got to learn Spanish, Russian, Chinese, and Arabic before I die, because I really want to help take the strengths movement into all those parts of the world. That's like a big chunk of the world if you get English plus those 5 languages. And so I've already got a Russian tutor. I'm relearning some of my high school Spanish. This is like an obsession. Sorry, Becky. I kind of get excited.
But that's good. That's what we need. That's why you're paving the way. I mean, it kind of sounds like, as you describe, like, I hate managing, to like, as you're saying, like, this excitement that you're getting, not just about spreading the strengths movement and having something that can fix the world, but also, like, you've described that now you don't hate managing, you actually love managing. Like, I mean, that's
right.
That's a huge transition from the before and after. And it's like, now you're getting a second chance kind of to do it all over again. Like, everything that you've ever learned about starting businesses and all that, it's like, now you're doing it again. And now with, like you say, a tool in front of you to be able to pull out the best in people and be a part of bringing them what they need. I mean, who wouldn't be inspired to work for an organization like that?
Well, that's the ideal, and hopefully we'll get close to that ideal. But even as a parent, I think back all the times I parented my children the way that I wanted to be parented, or that, based on who I was. So I have a son who's a great basketball player, just super talented, and I'm super competitive. It's my number 8, and it's my number 7. It's always on. And I hate losing. I would never even let the kids beat me in anything. It would remind me of that. She's like, you go bowling with the kids, they come home crying. Well, they need to learn how to bowl better. So I'm very competitive, but I used to coach my son after every game and like try to like get him to want to win. For him, as I look at his strengths, he has empathy, developer, consistency. And it's not about winning. It's about his teammates, he's got relator too, his relationship, how well they played, how well he played. And if he passed the ball a lot and his teammates scored, he would rather do that than be the leading scorer because he has the developer. He wanted to make the team better. He could leave a loss and be really happy. And I just didn't understand that. So I think I miscoached him for like 4 years until we finally found out what his strengths were. And then I stopped trying to make him like me as an athlete. It's all about competition and winning, and I'm analytical too. So, but for him, it's about other things. And I've really grown to appreciate him. And each one of my kids, I now parent them in the way, hopefully, that is better for them and not just easy for me or natural for me. So it's much more responsive in terms of how you're helping other people.
Well, how would you say that changed? What did it change for him when you changed your approach?
Well, he and I have a really close relationship now, and we talk about strengths a lot. I don't recall him saying kind of what that meant in terms of basketball, but in terms of his career seeking and his college goals and stuff like that, he has told me that strengths completely changed his perception of who he is and what he could be. One reason is my 2 oldest sons are in computer science, statistics, Android programming. They're into the geek kind of tech world. Josh is not that way at all and never has been. So he's always felt left out. Even when me and my 2 older sons are talking about technology, Josh is really not a part of that.
Yeah.
He went to a company meeting where my 2 sons were working, and they had 60 employees, mostly technologists, but one woman who's the COO who has 3 of the same top strengths as my son Josh.
Wow.
She sat down and told him that as a manager, the company would fall apart without her as the manager. That it was her consistency, her empathy. I think, I can't remember if it was developer also, but without her, all these tech people can't get anything done. And they just like stumble around and fall, and things fall apart. And when she sat down for an hour with him, and about 2 months later, I said, so that conversation with Liz, how did that make you think about yourself? He says, I think I'll be a great manager someday.
Wow.
For the first time in his life, he thought about managing people. Like not what he couldn't do in tech. Now he thinks about what I can do to help, whether it's tech people or salespeople. He tells me that he's very aware that he could be a great manager, and that's something he's thinking about.
Wow. Very cool. Cool. So, I mean, I feel like we could probably keep going on forever. And like you said, you have stories in like every realm, and I soak these things in. So, but as we kind of close up for the rest of the people that are listening in with us today, if you were going to draw from your own personal experience, kind of people who might have been experiencing some of the challenges that you were having before the strengths perspective, or maybe that you didn't even realize you really even were having before the strengths perspective, and then you realize, wow, how much better it could be after understanding your strengths and people around you. What encouragement or advice would you give to that person who can really just relate to where you were at before you discovered your strengths?
I just think it's a lens with which you look at yourself and everybody else, and it's a beautiful thing to look at what's right with each person. So one of my role models right now is our lead investor, Graham Weston. He ran a multi-billion-dollar company, Rackspace, down in San Antonio, and he told me that, he's brought strength to 7,000 employees, thousands of their family members, schools down in San Antonio. Like he said to me the other day or a few months ago, I don't know anyone who hasn't taken Clifton Strengths.
Wow.
Okay, so what if the advice to anybody who feels stuck in their career or stuck in a relationship or just not happy or not feeling fulfilled, what if you set as a goal that everybody you know sooner or later is going to discover their strengths and learn what it means for them and what unique value they can bring to a relationship or to a team? And Graham Weston also says every person wants to be a valued member on a winning team with an inspired mission. And I'm like, okay, Graham is just a brilliant, kind, wonderful, generous person. And he's embraced strengths for more than 20 years.
Wow.
Sharing it with so many thousands of people. The ripple effect is amazing. So if you're stuck, if you're miserable, if life isn't going the way you want, put on this new lens. Learn language in the tool of strengths, and then start making sure that everybody you care about starts to discover their strengths. The more conversations you have, the more you see life through this amazing, beautiful, tinted lens. And it's not rose-colored Pollyanna. It's not your eyes to the problems of the world, but it's realizing that the solution to all the problems of the world is through the very talents and strengths that we sometimes can't see.
Yeah.
And so when they go from invisible to visible and they become useful every day, things start to change around you and within you, and life can become an incredible journey.
Cool. It's a beautiful piece to end with and to encourage other people with when we're stuck, when we don't know where to go next, when some of the relationship stuff just doesn't feel like we can get out of it. It spirals down, to know that that by discovering who you are, you already have within you what it takes to get out of that and to bring your relationships to a place where you are so excited about them and are happy about them and can actually work together with the people that you've chosen to commit your life to. And beautiful encouragement. So
it can happen.
Yeah.
It can happen for you. It can happen for everyone.
It certainly can. Cool.
Yep.
Well,
right.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for chatting with all of us here today and sharing your stories about how the strengths perspective can make a difference in your work and your relationships in your life. So we'll chat next
time. Thank you, Becky. Okay, bye-bye.
Isn't Paul's passion and vision so compelling and so practical that we can use our strengths to get unstuck, to make a change for the good in our lives, families, work, communities, and more? You can explore more with Paul Allen over on LinkedIn, and you can get connected with a coach that is a perfect fit for you over at soar.com. If you are a coach, I cannot tell you how highly I recommend that you join Paul and his team on soar.com. Their vision is becoming a reality, and you have to be at the front of this with him. I certainly am. You can get his links over in the show notes at isogostrong.com/isogotv. Ultimately, my dream would be to see thriving marriages, families, and workplaces across the world. By orienting our mind toward our strengths, I know that we can get there, just like Paul is doing. So I'd love to ask you to share Isogo TV, the video or the audio version, with your own circles on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or right there in the relationships in your home or your office. And if you like Isogo TV or this interview with Paul Allen in particular, please leave a 5-star review over at iTunes. It not only means a lot to me, but it also helps others find this podcast as a resource too. I'm glad that you were here today to hear how others have fueled significant changes in their lives by focusing in on their strengths. And I hope that you join me for more next time on Isogo TV.